Thank you for that nice introduction. And Superintendent Holmes, thank you very much. I know you said you love to speak, and you also do an incredible job for the city of Boston. And I want to thank you for being an outstanding role model for so many people. As the kids were performing, and I was watching them perform, and you think about the challenges of today, and what the challenge that we're facing in this country today. And then I thought back to it, as I looked out at the crowd, most of you, many of you in this room, got a first-hand opportunity to hear Dr. King speak, not too far from here. And you fought through the civil rights movement to allow the opportunity for us and people of color to have their freedoms today, and to have everything they have. And then you think about, fast forward, 50 years later, we still have challenges in America. There's no question about it. We all recognize that, and I think we all admit that. And Superintendent Holmes talked about, when she goes out across the country, how when she's talking about what's happening in Boston with the relationships, people look at her strange. And they do. That doesn't mean that we don't have our own challenges here in this city, but we're working at it every single day. Every single day. When I wake up in the morning, my first conversation generally is with the commissioner of the police department. Every single day. And we talk about what happened in the city the night before, and generally we know what happened in the city the night before, and we go through different circumstances. And in 2 years as mayor, there's been very few mornings that we haven't had that conversation. And since I've been mayor for 2 years, there's very few mornings that we don't have the conversations about relationships in the community, and how do we build and strengthen those relationships. And how do we not just build it on behalf of the police, but how do we build it on behalf of the community as well, young people, so when they see police officers, they don't see what's happening around the country. And when you think about, when you look at the stats in our city over the last 12 months, violent crime is down by 9%. Homicides are at a 16-year low. We still had 38 too many homicides. We have a clearance rate of 72% this year, 15 points higher than any other city of our size. But the number that jumps out at us, at me, is arrests in the city of Boston last year went down by 15%, which means that there are more conversations going on in the community. If you look at other cities across America, that trend is going up. Arrests are going up, and everything else is going up with it. And I gotta say this, none of us are perfect, we're human beings, but I am proud of the work that Superintendent Holmes, Captain Hussein, who's here with us today, and Commissioner Evans have done, because we truly are a national model. We are a national model, but we can never stop. We have to continue every single day at building stronger relationships, because there are still far too many young people in our city that don't have trust because of the past. So I just want to thank the police department, and I want to thank the young people who performed, because it's important for all of us never to forget. And Dr. King said that. We can't forget. So I want to thank them for their support. I also want to thank the elected officials that are here with us today. I don't know if they've been mentioned, but I'm going to mention them again. State Representative Russell Holmes, I see him down the back. I want to thank Representative Holmes. Who is the chair of the Black Latino Caucus, but also not afraid to call me when he is not satisfied, because we are friends first. So I want to thank you for that. State Representative Ian Cullinane is here with us as well. I want to thank Representative Cullinane for the great work that Danny does in representing this district, and also making sure, particularly Mattapan, gets what Mattapan deserves and constantly fights for Mattapan. City Councilor Tim McCarthy, I want to thank Councilor McCarthy for being my partner in the City Council, working to make sure we continue to deliver the services. Thank you, kids. You were awesome. Thank you. A new city councilor, new to us, and her first breakfast as the city councilor, Andrea Campbell, who spends her days, the last 2 weeks, sitting down with every single department head and cabinet chief in the city of Boston to understand and learn how it works so that she can better deliver services to her district. Thank you, Councilor, for what you've done. And a man who doesn't really need any introduction, but somebody who I have grown, our relationship has taken a whole new level. We knew each other for a long time, but Sheriff Steve Tompkins, when he took over as sheriff, he talked to me about what he wanted to see happen in the jail, what he wanted to see happen in the House of Correction, how he wanted to change the path for so many young people in our city, people that were locked up, incarcerated, and how do we get them on a right path, and how do we prevent people from going into his prison. He's taken not only that, he just got elected as the head of the Sheriff's Association here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but he's been recognized on a national level where we had the Attorney General in his facility last week to see about re-entry and what he's doing. Sheriff Steve Tompkins, thank you. The veterans in the room, thank you for your service and protecting our nation and our city. We're joined by the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs in the City of Boston, Giselle Sterling, is here with us. Thank you. I want to thank all the faith leaders and community members for joining us, because when there's something going on in the city, your phone is ringing, and you never say no to us. You never say no to us, whether it's Commissioner Evans calling you, Commissioner Fenn from the Boston Fire Department calling you, as well. I'll talk about the Commissioner in a minute. You never say no to us. I want to thank you for what you do for our city. I'm honored to join you today in the celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This annual event, in case you don't know, this annual event raises funds to support critical programming for our kids, our veterans, and support the entire Mattapan community. Community engagement and organizing were pillars of Dr. King's legacy. So today's breakfast is a great illustration of his legacy and things that mattered the most to our former leader. I'm also proud to note that the Carter Post is one of the largest black veterans memberships in the city and the state of Massachusetts. I want to recognize, and I mentioned this already, the veterans who are old enough to have witnessed playing a role in the change that happened during Dr. King's life. You not only served your country, for the veterans in this room, you came home and you made your city and your neighborhood a better place. I want to thank all of you for keeping faith in your city and your country, and help us usher in a new and brighter future for all of our people. We honor your service today, and we recognize the contributions of the African American and people of color made to our city and nation. And why do I say that? Because we are a city that has everyone living in. I talked about the work the Boston Police Department is doing. In last year's budget, we were talking about how do we make sure that we keep the diversity throughout the entire city of Boston in all our different departments. So we hired a chief diversity officer, and we're going to have a conversation, we're beginning a conversation on race in our city, because many of you in this room know, as I do, this city was divided by race many, many years ago, and still there are scars of race still existing today. So we are going to have those conversations as we go into 2016. But as I went through all my different departments, we talked about how we're going to improve them. And we talked about the Chief Diversity Officer and how we're going to make sure that the Chief Diversity Officer in that office builds out diversity within the ranks of the City of Boston. And we talked about the police work, ongoing police work. And we also talked about the schools, how we have work going on in the schools, making sure that we hire more teachers of color, because 87% of the kids in our school system are kids of color, and 21% of the teachers are teachers of color. That doesn't work. And we're working on plans to make sure that works. And I had a meeting one day with the commissioner of the fire department. He came into me, and we were talking about the fire service. And he said to me, you know, we need to make sure that we get the upgrade and commitment and equipment to our city. And we talked about that a little bit. And he said, and we haven't touched a firehouse in a long time. And we have to build new firehouses. And we talked about it, about getting on a pathway. And we talked about equipment, not just fire engines, but equipment for our firefighters, because many of them are dying on the job related to cancer deaths. We talked about that. And the last thing we spoke about, he said, boss, I have a question to ask you. I want some extra money in the budget, because at the fire department, the one thing that we're missing is diversity, and we want to make sure that we have somebody on staff that's focused every single day. So for the first time in the history of the Boston Fire Department, we're putting on a chief diversity officer at the fire department. So it shows you that every level of government, wherever that level is, we're working to make sure that we are a better city. During his lifetime, Dr. King stressed the importance of embracing and taking part in social change. And that's really what we're talking about in City Hall. How do we do that? How do we take what he said in the 60s and use it today? He described this as remaining awake through a great revolution. He said our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake. Our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. Those words that he spoke in the 60s are as true today as they were the day that he said them. It's important because we have a changing world. It's important that we all remain vigilant as we tackle some of our cities and our country's biggest challenges. We shouldn't turn on each other on what's going on in the country. We should look and say, how do we fix the problems of America that are happening in our cities? All of you in this room are an inspiration of how far we can move together. And I want you to know, my administration, the City of Boston, and the elected officials in this room will always support you. We hold a deep commitment to connection of our veterans with critical needs like housing, medical, financial support, and education, and more. We don't forget our veterans in the City of Boston, and we are not going to forget our veterans in the City of Boston. We're always looking for ways to best serve those who served us. So together we'll always work towards a greater Boston where everyone has the ability to succeed and prosper. I want to bless you all. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share this great day with you.